Have you ever had a life-changing revelation while sitting in a dentist's chair? No? Then you clearly weren't Lars Ulrich in 1988, because out of a toothache was born one of the biggest albums in music history, Metallica's Black Album. An album that sold over 30 million copies, split the metal world in two, and took a band known for songs about death, destruction, and blind justice straight into the bedrooms of teenagers who used to listen to Bon Jovi. So how did that happen? How did the most anti-commercial band on the planet suddenly sound perfectly commercial? This is the story where every riff, every argument, and every inflated ego rewrote the history of heavy music. Let's get into it. The story begins in 1988. Lars Ulrich, mouth full of blood and cotton, is giving interviews about Metallica's latest album, Rewrote and Justice for All. He's ambitious, driven, and honestly, a little unbearable. Despite selling 6 million records and dominating MTV, something still felt off. Metallica was big, but not huge. They were the band with the long riffs and 9-minute songs. Respected, feared, but nearly impossible to digest for radio. James Hetfield later admitted that Justice sounded like two egos thrown into a blender. Noise on top of noise. No soul, no bass, and somewhere Jason Newsted is still crying about that mix. So Lars made a decision.
Guys, we need to reinvent ourselves. We need to make something the world has never heard before.
Translation: bigger, cleaner, more radio-friendly, but without selling our souls. And that led to the first dangerous move. They hired Bob Rock, the man who turned Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood into Sonic Gold, Metallica. The band that proudly claimed they didn't need producers, now working with the most mainstream rock producer of the 80s. What could possibly go wrong? Spoiler, everything. Bob Rock walked into the studio and said straight to their faces, "You've never captured your live energy on record." Lars: "Excuse me, who do you think you are?" Bob Rock: "The guy who's going to make you sound like a hurricane." And he did, but not without blood, sweat, and 40 takes per song. Because success is not born from comfort, it's born from frustration. That moment when you look at your achievements and think, is this really all I can do? That was Metallica after Justice, a band that had everything, yet felt incomplete. Great artists often become prisoners of their own standards. And Lars, with his general-level ego and obsession with control, believed the world deserved Metallica's perfect vision. Nobody warned him that perfection hurts, that sometimes you must destroy the formula that made you famous to create a new one. That chaos, that hunger to be bigger than life itself, was the true beginning of the Black Album. Metallica did what all great artists eventually do. They betrayed themselves in order to reinvent themselves. They questioned everything: song length, song structure, the very definition of metal. They didn't want to be just a band anymore. They wanted to be a cultural force, and for that, they needed the ultimate courage to shut up when every instinct told them to scream. The real battle happened in the studio. Even napalm death never caused this much destruction per square meter. Lars wanted total control. James wanted soul and honesty. Bob Rock wanted one thing only: perfection. The result? 9 months of torture and arguments. Riffs recorded until even the guitars needed therapy. Bob Rock forced them to play together in the studio. For Metallica, this was sacrilege. They were used to recording separately and fixing it in the mix. For Lars, it was a brutal lesson in humility. The guy who worshipped Neil Peart now had to learn to drum like Phil Rudd. Simple, heavy, groovy. "I was trained my whole life to prove how good I was. Now I had to just feel, and that nearly broke me," Lars later admitted. Meanwhile, James Hetfield started writing from somewhere deeper. He abandoned the political rage of Justice and dug into his childhood, raised in Christian Science. No doctors, no medicine, just faith and silence. From that pain came The God That Failed and Nothing Else Matters. Yes, that song, the one that made grown men in ripped Metallica shirts quietly tear up. James didn't even want to show it to the band. "It was just for me," he said. Thankfully, Lars heard it and replied, "That's the hit, man." "But it's a ballad," James protested. "Exactly," Lars smiled. "Can you imagine the chaos?" What most people miss is this. The Black Album isn't just about a change in sound. It's about a change in the man. James Hetfield, the Iron Wall, realized he was made of flesh, fear, and memory. Music stopped being a weapon. It became a mirror. The aggression now had a purpose: to exorcise old ghosts. That's why the album connected so deeply. Behind the anger, people felt vulnerability. If even Hetfield had demons, maybe ours were allowed to exist too. And still, one question hovered over everything. How much can you change without losing who you are? The Black Album was Metallica's answer. You don't have to choose between art and success, between power and emotion, but you do have to kill your ego. Ironically, to reach billions, Metallica had to become more human than ever. In a world that confuses noise with strength, the Black Album proved that sometimes a single quiet note can hit harder than an 8-minute solo. Before we go further, if stories like this light something up inside you, make sure you subscribe to the channel and stay with us. This is where music isn't just played, it's understood. You'll also find a few important links in the description. If you want to support the channel directly and help keep these deep dives alive, you can buy us a coffee using the link below. Every bit of support goes straight back into better content for you. And while you're there, take a second to check out the discounted Sugar Defender link. It only takes 30 seconds before bed, but this tiny habit can help activate your metabolism while you sleep. Simple actions, real impact. Now let's get back into the story. Nobody left one-on-one studio saying, Lars was losing his mind. Bob Rock started talking to himself. James literally lost his voice from screaming. But something magical was happening. Every argument, every retake, every one more time. The Black Album was getting closer to perfection. And then, Enter Sandman was released and the world stopped. Metal had been compressed into a singable chorus. A story about nightmares, fear, and childhood trauma. Riding a riff that sounds like a freight train from hell. From there, everything exploded. The Unforgiven, Sad but True, Wherever I May Roam. Each song balanced perfectly between darkness and light. Critics screamed, they sold out. Real fans screamed. The lyrics, the irony, Metallica became bigger than metal itself. Lars and Bob Rock didn't speak for a year after the release, but the result was undeniable. Over 30 million albums sold. A band transformed into a global legend. Hetfield later said, "The Black Album was freedom. It showed us you can be honest and powerful at the same time." Bob Rock summed it up simply, "It was hell on earth, but it was worth it." After the global explosion came the inevitable emptiness. How do you create something real when the world only wants you to repeat the magic? Metallica learned that artistic freedom is a poisoned gift. It frees you from expectations and leaves you alone with your decisions. Every album after Black was an act of defiance. Load, Reload, S&M, Saint Anger, mixed reactions, divided fans. But that's what made them eternal. They never feared hate, only the mediocrity. In the end, the Black Album wasn't just a sonic revolution, it was a lesson in maturity about growing up when everyone wants you to stay young. Metallica proved you don't have to choose between instinct and intelligence. You can have everything, if you're willing to pay the price. To be hated today for something the world will love in 30 years. And now when Enter Sandman still shakes stadiums worldwide, one thing is clear. Not all monsters come to scare you. Some come to wake you up. That's how the Black Album was born. From a toothache, a wounded ego, and a dangerous amount of madness. An album that proves simplicity isn't betrayal, it's courage. Sometimes you must burn everything down to rise stronger. Metallica learned that perfection isn't complexity, it's truth. And honestly, if a guy with an infected tooth can make history, what excuse do we really have? If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe, share this video, and let me know in the comments. Did Metallica sell out or reinvent themselves with the Black Album? Until next time, stay healthy, stay strong, and be kind.